Ohio State is back, and they are alive in the college football playoff race, heading into the quarterfinals after a dominant display, 42-17 over Tennessee. That really wasn't even as close as this game actually was. These are snap judgments. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. So when I say the Buckeyes are back, I still don't know where they went 3 weeks ago, but this is the national title contending, national title threat version of the Buckeyes that we were so befuddled that we didn't see the last time they were in the stadium, but they have returned.
Yeah, there was an air of desperation. There was an air of just being full of rage. You could see it when they walked into the building that they were in a very different mental place than they've been. They looked extremely focused, and all year long, not just here, but other than the Oregon game, I mean, there's been very few times in the Big Ten play and beyond where they've come out and really just looked like they had a plan on offense in that first drive or two. And they had one tonight, and they executed it. Will Howard was awesome. Jeremiah Smith was his normal uncoverable self.
Yeah.
Emeka Ibuka was making plays. The run game took a little bit of time to get unhitched, but then you saw the impact of Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Great job by Austin Serveld, Luke Montgomery, and Tegra Shabola. Once Tegra got reinserted into the game in the second half, he had a pretty rough second quarter, it looked like, and Ohio State took him out and put him back in at the start of the second half, and I think there were a lot of people wondering why. And then he really seemed to bow his back and make some improvements in the second half. And I watched as Ohio State scored their final touchdown, Tegra Shabola coming off the field, and he was greeted by Justin Fry, who grabbed him, and they had a long exchange. Jack Sawyer came over and was in his face. These guys, we've had so many conversations in the last few weeks about, if you're an Ohio State fan, why keep supporting this team after a disappointing loss like they had a few weeks ago? And it's because the guys on the team deserve it. And they came out here and played their best game of the year, and they did it for a really great fan representation tonight. It might have only been 75,000 Ohio State fans, but 75,000 loud is better than 105,000 quiet. And I think that the fans took the challenge that the Tennessee fan base brought into the horseshoe. So just kudos all around. I mean, it was the first time in a while in this building where, admittedly, as a longtime Ohio State fan, I still get chills in this building sometimes.
Yeah.
That first quarter after the second touchdown was the first time in a while where I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels like something really special. And as you said, 42-17 is the final score, but this should have been 50-0 Ohio State if the officials didn't give Tennessee a chance to stay in the game for ESPN's sake, I guess. But this was as dominant a performance by Ohio State offensive and defensively since I don't know when.
Isn't it refreshing that we're covering an Ohio State playoff game, a game of major consequence, and there were bad calls against them, and we don't have to go on snap judgments and just be like, well, everything went against Ohio State. They did things right, and then they were robbed again. That, we've seen that impact the outcome. We've seen that sort of break the rhythm, break the spirit of Ohio State in the past, and certainly some of the ones against Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl that always come to mind immediately for me. There was not really as many opportunities to respond, and they just kept happening one after the other. But Ohio State had two of those happen back-to-back with the blown, ignored pass interference that led to an interception when they were about to make it 28-0, and then the ensuing drive for Tennessee where just maybe the softest or most illogical roughing the passer call that I've ever seen on Kenyatta Jackson. It leads to points, and again, it was only 21-3 at that point, but it could have been 28-0. Then you're kicking off. Who knows what happens after that, because they were breaking Tennessee, not just with a game plan, but the physicality. Player after player after player was heading to the Tennessee sideline over here, injured and unable to return. I understand fully the frustration and the confusion. I feel it like everybody else from 3 weeks ago. This wasn't just about a much better game plan, although it was that. They were imposing their will on an SEC team and physically breaking them down.
It was, like I said, I mean, it's as complete a performance as we've seen out of Ohio State, and I can't even really think about it right now. It's late, and my brain is frozen. But the reality is, we saw for 2 weeks now, since we've really known this was the matchup, 2.5 weeks, where all the conversation was about James Pierce and the Tennessee defensive line, and Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau dominated this game. We saw Will Howard, who played his worst game of his career as an Ohio State Buckeye 3 weeks ago in this building, come out and play his best. And then you just see a team that believed fully that they were not going to lose this game. And I think at the risk of like maybe hypothesizing too grandly here, when you go into half, it's down. You're up 21-10. You feel like you should have been up 28-0 at that point. And I think Ryan Day's decision to not take a knee after the Tennessee touchdown, even though Ohio State didn't score points because they missed a 56-yard field goal, which they knew they weren't going to make it, but it sent a message to, I think, to say, hey, we're not content here. Yeah. You could have taken a knee, gone into the half at that. There was 20 seconds left when, 35 seconds left when Tennessee scores there. You could have easily just taken a knee at the 20 and gone into half. But the Buckeyes had 2 timeouts and decided, hey, we're going to push the tempo. We're going to try to make something happen. And I think that mentality is something that the players in the program appreciate so much. And again, if I'm going to pick a nit here, I probably just should have thrown a Hail Mary instead of trying the 56-yard field goal. But who cares? Like the mindset of the Ohio State coaching staff is what was different between 3 weeks ago and today. And I said it pregame on the keys, like you have to move on from Michigan, and it's much easier to do that now because you can feel like, hey, this is who we are at our best, and now you get to 10 days to prepare for a rematch against Oregon in what should be an absolutely incredible Rose Bowl.
Look, there are certainly going to be people who are not over the Michigan loss and are not going to forgive the current losing streak. And that's fine. Everyone can make their own evaluations and have their own opinions about the state of the program. For me, even understanding the financial implications of potentially moving on and blowing up everything that was in this program, I came into today unsure of what was going to happen because there were 2 paths. Yeah. And even if he was not maybe going to be fired right now, the next 9 months would have been the most scorching hot seat that you would ever see for Ryan Day, and very uncomfortable for the program. But when you're looking at, I think today was a validation of the health of every part of the program. Let's not even just talking about offense, defense, recruiting, transfer portal additions. Like if you keep going down the list, like if I'm talking about breaking Tennessee's players, Mickey Maratti's strength program, I think had a moment today where Jack and JT are just punishing people over and over, and every hit was leaving somebody banged up. Equipment staff to deal with the elements and getting through that. I think this was a comprehensive, top-down, confirmation that this is still one of the best, if not the best overall programs in the country. And yes, they lost a game 3 weeks ago, and they will lose other games in the future. But this was a reminder of what a fully formed Death Star the Buckeyes can be when they are laser focused on a target. And you could say, why didn't they do that 3 weeks ago? And I get it. I understand. But they have a target now that is winning 4 games and winning a national championship. And this was just step 1. But if they do that 3 more times, they can do that 3 more times. And no one's going to beat them when they play like that.
No, and I think that there's something very freeing for Ryan Day when you know your back's against the wall there. Like, this was a caged animal tonight. And we saw Ohio State being in a corner and saying, what do we have to lose? And when you watch that when you have that much talent and then you have the freeness and the willingness to say, hey, screw it, let's just go do what we do.
Yeah.
Like,
there's nothing left to lose.
Right.
At that point.
I think there's something really different about that mentality because normally when you're a team that's this talented, there's always something to lose. And there wasn't tonight. It's like, hey, let's just come out, play fast and free. And, again, Tennessee fans brought it. There were a lot of them in here, more than I thought, honestly. And we didn't see a count, probably 35,000 or so.
I think Kirk Herbstreit, I guess, was saying on the broadcast, they got a bunch of people texting in that was like 40 to 50,000 is what Kirk said. I do not believe that. I think what happened was the Tennessee fans that traveled got into the horseshoe early and were loud. And before Ohio State fans filled in, I was like, holy cow, how many people are actually in here? It looks like they're everywhere because they were spread out. Yeah. Once the Scarlet filled in, I think it was probably 70% Ohio State.
I think it was like 30 to 35.
And that's credit to Tennessee. Good on you, but they left early.
And they did, they did a great job. I just think that this is a reminder that Ohio State has been one of the 2 best teams in the country all year long. And I understand where people get upset when I say, like, sometimes you're going to lose a game. You lose Michigan. It doesn't matter as much as it used to for various reasons. Number one reason that you're here playing tonight and they're not, and you have a chance to win a national championship. But this team, when they are that team, and that's the thing, we haven't seen that team. Like, we have not seen that type of performance out of this team all year long. So if you're someone who wonders, like, where the hell's that been? Like, that's fair. And I think that you're probably going to have a large number of people with you in that camp because we've been waiting for that. And now the challenge is, how do you put a game like that back to back? But what you saw tonight was a program that had nothing to lose, had its back against the wall, and they leaned on each other, and it was awesome. It was an incredible performance. Again, to the crowd that made it, like, this was a great environment tonight at Ohio Stadium, and people should be happy that they were able to be a part of this game.
So when I say it's a comprehensive victory for the program, that means that there's a lot of credit to go around. But I'm going to force you to drill down on an offensive player of the game and a defensive player of the game.
And Will Howard, certainly, 311 yards. He was unbelievable. Even the interception, again, probably shouldn't have been an interception, but the throw was right there. It was very aggressive. I just loved everything that he did tonight. He was maybe not. It's funny because, man, we saw that 75-yard touchdown run in the spring, and you're like, man, this dude can run. And then we see him tonight, and, like, he gets loose a few times. And I was standing there. He had a 6-yard run. I was like, how the hell was that only 6 yards? he was running for like 11 seconds. But Will Howard, just an incredible job, especially coming off of the Michigan game. And you'll see, folks, on the notebook, like, he's definitely feeling himself a little bit tonight, and he should be.
He should be. He earned it.
And defensively, I think it has to be Jack Sawyer, who's doing, again, what he did last year and really ramping up and playing his best ball at the end of the season, because he was electric and pretty much unblockable. And, he was so dialed in that he didn't even remember this was his last game in the horseshoe until I told him with 9 minutes to go that he needed to plant a flag. And he was like, oh, you know what? This is my last game. Holy crap, I forgot. Like, so he was great. Him and JT were both great. Just a really, really great team performance.
I can't say that I knew, but I strongly suspected when I saw Jack Sawyer walk in wearing just a T-shirt, when I saw Jack Sawyer walk over to that corner of the end zone when Tennessee was trying to go to the locker room after warm-ups. We know what he did after the loss to Michigan and the fight that he showed and the pride and investment that he has in the program and what it means to him. I could tell he was going to fully empty the tank to make sure that that feeling did not happen to him again. He was chippy before the game. He was locked in before the game. He was unblockable once he got in the game. Every situation where someone was needing to or wanting to exhort the crowd, it was 33 doing it. I mean, I don't know what more you could possibly ask for out of a captain, out of a leader, out of a defensive end, like across the whole board. I think JT Tuimoloau played one of his better games as well. The combination of those two, as we start to look forward, that was what was missing against Oregon the first time and why they came up short defensively. They could not get pressure on Dylan Gabriel.
Or chose not to try.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, still trying to figure out that.
Again, that performance defensively is as befuddling as the offensive performance in the Michigan game. They have a chance. Like, they'll never get over the gold pants situation, but they do have a chance against the number one seed, undefeated team, the Big Ten champion. And if they duplicate that effort offensively from the trip out to Eugene and complement that with the level of defense that we're seeing right now, I'm telling you, they're going to win that game too.
They certainly have all the tools to do it. And what you also saw tonight was like the emergence or the introduction of new leaders. which I think is vital. I mean, the season could be over in 10 days. It could be over in a month. Who knows? It's going to be over in a month either way.
Sure.
You need to see some other guy step up. The way that Luke Montgomery played in very difficult situation to be put into, but then not just like playing well, but then being the emotional leader on the offensive line and riling up the crowd. And Josh Fryer had left everything on the field.
Yeah.
I just think that you start to see some of these Ohio kids and the Midwest kids that are still like, this is what it means to them. And Luke has had a very up and down last 8 months where he thought he was going to be a starter on this team in the spring. And then he hit a little bit of a sophomore slump in March. Mm-hmm. Tonight was huge for him. It's huge for him to understand, like, hey, I belong here. This is not, no offense, Northwestern or Rutgers. Like, this was against one of the 2 or 3 best defensive lines in the country. And he was not just like holding up, he was smashing people. And when you saw him and Austin Saraveld and then again Tegra in the second half, like you start to see like, hey, these guys, Josh Padilla gets in the game for 36 seconds and almost gets in a fight because he's that type of, he's ready to go. Like, there are people on this team that we have not spent any real time talking about this season that had an opportunity to introduce themselves tonight, and that's going to be huge for Ohio State moving forward. I thought this game was over when Tennessee walked out with all their guys without their shirts on. I was like, that's so corny. I knew that the team
didn't last very long either.
They're not serious. They're not serious. Like, I understand you want to show you're tough, but like, that's when, you know what you should do is like be warm and like warm up instead of coming out being all dumb. I knew the game was over at that point.
Wow.
Because they were not serious.
And they put their shirts back on pretty quickly after that, and then Ohio State takes over the game.
And then Ohio
right
State
away.
took their pants off and spanked them.
Oh my! I missed that part. That I'm glad they didn't show that on camera.
Yeah,
I couldn't see it in the press
late,
box.
boys and girls.
Gets late early around here after the first ever playoff game in the Horseshoe. It is won decisively. The Rose Bowl came up and presented a game ball to Ryan Day. I'm sure that's not one of his prized possessions, but this win does mean
that's a literal participation trophy.
A lot to him and the Buckeyes. They are moving on in the bracket. They are getting that rematch against Oregon.
And sorry,
go ahead.
Like now, like nothing the seeding doesn't matter. The road doesn't matter.
The teams they were going to play from here on out were going to be the teams they were going to play.
So now it's time to go. I can't wait for this rematch with Oregon. I wish it wasn't in Pasadena, but
literally anywhere else. I'd go back to Eugene.
Yeah, I would love to go anywhere other than LA. But hey, fans, be ready to buy tickets and go.
We're going to do the same. We've already got our flights, and now we need some credentials to head out there, but that should be an easy process. We're ready because the next second round of the playoffs is coming, and Ohio State has punched a ticket by punching out Tennessee, 40-17. Head on home to Rocky Top, folks. Travel safe. It was nice seeing you. Thank you for supporting the Columbus economy. It was great to see you all. Thanks for visiting. And
Orange, you glad we didn't say banana?
And adios.
That was weird.
Buckeyes, big winners, staying alive. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. These have been Snap Judgments, playoff style. We'll see you later.